Welcome to another rough interview for Elton John World. We say rough because we scrap the jingles, we don't make it anything particularly exotic. We go straight to the talk, which is with Charlie Morgan. One-time Elton John drummer, one-time Nick Kershaw drummer. He's been around the houses. He's been at Live Aid in 1985. That's where we remember him, probably where it started with everything. Yeah. And he's been there through the 90s with Elton John. He's now branched out. He's living in Nashville. He's doing very well for himself. What are you doing? Tell us, give us a quick sort of backdrop to how the last sort of 5 years have been.
Oh, last 5 years. Well, I'm doing quite a lot of freelance work. I've got the studio I do session work for people all over the world, and also doing a lot of these multi-artist shows, which feature lead singers from different bands. Actually involves quite a lot of learning very often. But we have 4 or 5 singers on one show, and if I'm lucky, I know the people and I've already worked with them and I already know the material. If I'm unlucky, I have a whole bunch of learning to do. But we end up being the house band, and the singers come on and off and do their 4 or 5 biggest hits. So it's a kind of greatest hits show, featuring artists from different eras, really. Right,
okay. Now, I remember when I first interviewed you, which must be the best part of 15, 20 years ago. Well, it actually was 20 years ago, about 1998, I think. Back then, I think I remember describing you as the most articulate rock artist in history. Because you have, as well as music, you've done a lot of other things. I mean, you've been a company director as well, haven't you? You've done a lot of different things.
Yeah, although I wouldn't say I was a particularly successful company director. I think, for much of the 90s, I was in partnership with somebody with a record label, and we had a recording studio. Not a good time to run a recording studio, by the way, the mid-90s. I think in England, 1 studio a week was going under. So we were lucky to actually last most of the 90s with that. And our record label, we signed up a number of our friends to our label. It was a small niche market label. We had a fair measure of success with that. So yeah, I suppose I've been an entrepreneur over the years, but really mostly a drummer.
Why were recording studios going down like that, like flies at the time? What was it, the .com era? What was causing this?
It was really down to home studio, advancements in home studio technology. It just got to the point where you could record
in a basement flat.
In a basement flat or in your bedroom. And I mean, now all the kids are recording in their bedrooms and putting stuff up on YouTube. And that has pretty well been the death knell to the professional recording studio. The only time you need a professional recording studio these days is when you're recording a full orchestra.
Yeah.
And as a result, there are 2, maybe 3 big studios in London that still exist. The main 2 are Air Lyndhurst and Abbey Road, and they're the places that cater for the full orchestra movie soundtracks and stuff like that. And then there's also Angel Studios up in Islington, and that's pretty well it.
Pretty much, as you say, and everything else is bedsit productions.
Pretty well, yeah, sadly.
Yeah, and now in terms of your work with Elton John, I mean, obviously that spans many, many years. What are your sort of highlights? What are the moments that you will treasure as we come almost to a certain end of an era, really, with Elton? But we'll talk about that more in a moment. Just looking back over your time with Elton, what are the sort of highlights that stand out? The funny moments or the great gigs?
Well, one of them has to be my first live gig with Elton, which was Live Aid. And that's become particularly topical recently because of Bohemian Rhapsody.
Yes.
In fact, I went to see Bohemian Rhapsody a couple of weeks back with my ex-wife because she wanted to go and see it simply because she knew that I was there playing with Elton. And funnily enough, I took them to task. I said there was an inaccuracy in the movie Bohemian Rhapsody because Elton and I were actually standing on the side of the stage for much of Freddie's performance, but we weren't there in the movie.
Oh, right.
So
they'd photoshopped you out, in other words.
Yeah, well, but of course, they were recreating it. But Yeah, we were standing stage left watching Freddie. In fact, at one point, Elton turned to me and said, "Freddie's on fire tonight." And I said, "Yeah, he is."
It was an incredible concert and a massive comeback for him as well, and the fact that he agreed to do Live Aid, and that is documented in that movie. What did you think of Bohemian Rhapsody as a film overall? Did you think it was a bit sort of syrupy, a little bit sort of for the fans, or did you think it really did properly reflect the personality that was, the huge personality that was Freddie Mercury?
I think they might have eulogized him a bit. But no, I think they created a character who was far from perfect. And I think they showed a lot of his imperfections. Obviously, the executive producers were the rest of the band, as it said at the beginning. Because basically it was Brian May and Roger Taylor and John Deacon said executive producers. So they had some kind of say in it. I think they might have sugar-coated it a little bit, but I was impressed actually. All in all, I found I related to it. Bearing in mind that I was growing up in West London and starting out about the same time as they were, because they were coming to prominence in the early 70s, and I was playing the pubs as well about the same time as them. We were all playing the same pub circuit, so I was aware of Queen,
right,
and as a band, in West London at that time. So I did relate to it quite heavily.
So Live Aid, that would be the sort of big highlight that you remember.
Yeah, and
with Elton.
I have another one which we played a show which was, I think it has to be in. Berlin Wall came down in 89, didn't it? We played a show for Volkswagen on the Brandenburg Gate, facing east, to an estimated audience of something like 500,000 people. It's a free concert for the 5th anniversary of the wall coming down. So I think it was in October or November of 2004. And I do remember that. That was a pretty amazing show. It was just... because we were playing to so many people. We played to a sea of people facing east, and we were on the Brandenburg Gate. I thought that was pretty special.
And at 500,000 is quite a statistic because if you remember, Elton's previous big freebie concert was Central Park, 1980. And there he performed there just months before the tragic gunning down of John Lennon, who lived just off a Dakota building, yes. just off the Central Park itself. While he was doing that concert, of course, he dedicated one of the songs to John Lennon, and he did perform that. That Central Park gig, 400,000, was slightly smaller as a free concert that Elton performed than what you did in Berlin.
They're all estimates, but I believe that they estimated around 500,000 people attended the Berlin show. But what was so incredible about that was that literally 5 years before that wouldn't have been possible because the Brandenburg Gate was facing into East Germany. So I think they made it for that very reason. They actually put the stage up in front of the Brandenburg Gate. So I remember we walked up through the back of the Brandenburg Gate and onto the stage to do the show. And it was quite a cool evening as well, but very warm welcome from the German crowd.
Fantastic. Now, we're actually, just in case you're wondering, we've been joined by another unexpected guest who's you'll probably see in the video. Sitting on the sofa is one of my pet Scottish Terriers. It's great by the way, to receive you here at my home today and just before Christmas as well. And it's great that you've been able to find some time for us and for Elton John World today. Charlie, tell us now, the thing that obviously a lot of talk about at the moment is Elton's got a new film coming out, a biographical film about his life and so on. He's also currently halfway through his final farewell tour. Now, he has retired on several occasions in his career. I know he's got family now, he's got kids. It is a bit different. But first of all, what are your thoughts about his latest retirement? Will it last?
Well, having personally been on stage during, I think, at least 3 unofficial retirements or announcements of retirements during the time I was with him, you have to forgive me for being a little bit cynical about it. But also, I'm not sure that he can do it. I'm not sure he's able to. I think he loves playing to audiences. He loves getting the audience reaction. He may stop touring the world, but I think he'll probably do some key shows in places over the years. There may be much bigger shows. They may end up being broadcast live, like they do these days. I mean, here in England, they do a lot of broadcasting ballet from the Royal Ballet, and people go to cinema theatres and watch it live. And I think that there's a possibility of that happening as well. I think that might happen. We get some of those simultaneous broadcasts in the USA as well, where they do that across an entire the time zone. You know? So I think that I don't think he'll retire totally.
No. I think he'll probably also want to continue to record.
Yeah, although, it's recently he hasn't done a huge amount of recording. Maybe he has more of a desire to do it, in which case I might see him, because he tends to record in Nashville these days. It's with T-Bone. They have a studio that they actually had with Leon Russell, so I think they've still got the place. It's up in the north end of Nashville, just outside in Hendersonville.
If you got the phone call to come back to the band, would you do it?
Yeah, of course, without a doubt.
Well, we look forward to that.
Even to just do a guest. I'd love to be involved with a guest spot. I've stayed on good terms with everybody over the years, and I don't think there's any bad blood. So
Fantastic. Well, we hope to see you back in the band at some point, Charlie, and certainly we hope very much that Elton will continue in some way to remain creative. I know certainly from the past experiences, whenever he has retired, he's found it very frustrating for him. He doesn't find it. I mean, I'm sure he's getting to the point now where it's more tiring than it was when he was younger, but he still gets a buzz from it. And when he's going to sort of hang up his platform boots, so to speak, what's he going to do? I mean, he's got kids, of course. He's got a family now, and he's got all those things to consider. And time with them is obviously precious and important. But at the same vein, he gets very frustrated when he's not recording or he's not on tour or doing something. So I guess you're right. You'll probably be more selected by appointment only events as opposed to running, rolling, touring.
Yeah.
I
know he said he would never play Vegas again, but he said that on several occasions, and then they've offered him enough money and he's gone back. I mean, the last time when he did the Red Piano, he said, "That's it, I'm done, I'm never going back." And then they offered him the $1 million piano, and he went, "Oh, all right then." So, I think the thing about it is, if people in Vegas throw enough money in his direction or give him enough incentive, then he will go and do it. And of course, in that case, what happens is people come to see him, he doesn't go to see them. So it's not like being on tour as much as touring all over the world.
Now, you do a lot of work in the States, obviously. You come over to the UK as you've done this week. How often are you back in the UK?
Well, this year I was actually back in Europe 4 times. I came back to Europe 4 times. One of them was purely to celebrate my mother's 90th, but the other 3 times were to work with different acts. I'm looking to do that more. But I'm also looking at a possible change in career. I've still got plenty to offer as a drummer, but as I get older, I mean, in my early 60s now, and as I get older, I can see the physical ramifications becoming harder. And I've been talking to someone in Nashville about the concept of becoming a live performance coach.
Oh, right. What would that involve? What should the fans expect?
Well, I'm in my 46th year as a drummer professionally, and I have played behind. My web girl and I have just worked out a short list that's in the hundreds of people that I've backed up over the years, and so I think I have some kind of expertise in how people communicate with the audience. So what I would be doing is I'd be coaching new artists or even existing artists in the concept of how they communicate to the audience and how they perform in order, to gain popularity.
Wow, so it's quite a psychological thing, really, isn't it?
I think so, yes.
Wow.
You know, one of the secrets is, someone once said to me, you mustn't sing at the audience, you must sing to the audience. Because if you sing to the audience, then you bring them onto the stage. Not physically, obviously, but you bring them onto the stage in their own imaginations, in their own minds. And if you're drawing them into your world, then they feel they're included in your world.
Suppose that's also why very often at live concerts you get the artist encouraging the audience to sing along with and to get them into the song itself.
But sometimes you see artists doing this, where everybody clap along, and they're still singing at the audience, and they're not really communicating. You know, it takes a certain amount of skill to be able to put your ego on stage. And let's face it, a lot of people on stage, it's all about ego. But the best artists, the best performers, somehow manage to put that on hold and reach out to the audience and bring them in.
Charlie Morgan, it's been a pleasure. Thank you for joining us on Elton John World today, and a happy Christmas to you.
And to you.